Hey everybody, it's your pal Mike Shea from Sly Flourish here to talk about Descent into Avernus. Specifically, I'm going to talk about soul coins. Soul coins are an interesting feature in Descent into Avernus, and it's one that in my game I've had a little bit of trouble with, and I wanted to talk about that trouble today. But it's actually kind of interesting because my issue with soul coins actually is part of a bigger issue of the question of themes in Descent into Avernus. I have some notes over here on the left that I'm going to refer to, and these will be down in the show notes as well. So one of the things that is interesting about Descent into Avernus is it has the default theme that exists when you run the book as written. And as written, this is a theme where the characters have a dark past, a dark history. They do dark deeds. They are conscripted by the Flaming Fist, who themselves are quite a questionable group. And they are conscripted to basically execute the cultists of the Dead Three. So they're already in a place of darkness and a little bit of despair and everything like that. So if you have characters who have these dark secrets and these dark pasts and have done these dark deeds, and then they go to Avernus and they have to deal with something like the soul coins, it's not a big deal because they've already sacrificed a lot of themselves in order to do what they will do. And those characters with their dark deeds in the past might not have near as much of a question about the use of soul coins as others. Now, the problem with that theme, though, that theme of dark characters doing dark deeds, is that there's no reason for those characters to want to go into Avernus in the first place. That the way the adventure works, they find out the plot line of Thavius Krieg, they find out what's going on, they find out that Avernus was sucked into hell. But what do they care, right? There's no motivation for them to actually go into it at level 5. So they hear all this stuff and they have this nice knight, Rhea Mantlemorn, who says, please come and help save my city. And they're like, no. I got my own issues, right? I got conscripted by the Flaming Fist, who said they're going to kill me if I don't kill these other people. Like, I got my own problems in Baldur's Gate. I'm not doing that. So that to me was a thematic problem with the adventure when I wanted to run it for myself. And I found a solution to this problem, which comes with a new introduction to Baldur's Gate called the Fall of El Torrel. I've talked about the Fall of El Torrel on the show before. This is a introductory short adventure written by Anthony Joyce and Justice Armand that has a new way to tie your characters to Descent into Avernus. And it does so by tying them to the Hell Riders, to Rhea Mantlemorn, and to Elturel. They come from Elturel, they have ties to the Hell Riders, and they already know Rhea Mantlemorn before Elturel falls. And then when it falls, they see it fall. And now they have a reason to get it back. They are loyal to this city. They are loyal to the Hell Riders. They are loyal to Rhea Mantlemorn. And they'll find a way to get the city back. And I find that theme much more refreshing and a lot easier to use as the central motivation for the characters to go into Avernus and save this city, which is a huge act. And it's a tremendous act of heroism to ask level 5 characters to do. And if you've got a bunch of conscripts from the Flaming Fist, they're not going to want to do it. But if you've got a bunch of people that are loyal to the city first, they will absolutely do it. And that's what I found in my game. But then you find another problem when you actually go into Avernus. You go through the section on Elturel and that works fine. And next thing you know, you're down working with the warlords of Avernus and you find out that there's these huge infernal war machines. But the only way to power up an infernal war machine is through the use of a soul coin. Now, a soul coin has multiple purposes, but a soul coin is basically a big piece of metal, big coin, that holds a soul, of a mortal soul in it. And you can use it for a bunch of different things, but the thing in particular that comes in this adventure is that you use it to power infernal war machines. But when you power an infernal war machine with the soul, after the coin is expended, the soul is destroyed. And that is a very big deal. That to me is a much bigger deal than moving a car around for 24 hours. And that was part of the theme. I didn't know this until my group hit this. And I had characters who were like, I'm not burning a soul for a vehicle. Are you kidding me? We're here to save 300 people in Elturel, not destroy souls, right? And you think about it and you're like, yeah, but it's part of the game and they're making self-sacrifices. Sacrifice is an issue. But think about what you're really asking them to do. Right? You have an eternal soul, an infinite soul, a soul that lasts forever. And you're burning it up and destroying it forever to drive a car one day. That's crazy, right? So 3 days if it has 3 charges in it, but you work with me here. So it actually reminded me a little bit of something that I read about that I thought was interesting, which is Pascal's wager, right? And so Pascal, the mathematician, had a formula that he called Pascal's wager, which was, can you actually tie the risks and rewards of heaven and hell in an equation? And what he said was essentially, on one side, if you don't believe heaven and hell exist, then when you die, you just disappear. You get to enjoy your life and you get to do all the stuff you want to do and not worry about sinning, but then you die and then it's gone. On the other side, though, if it turns out you're wrong, then you have an infinite amount of time in heaven or an infinite amount of time in hell. You don't have infinity on this side of the equation, but you do have infinity on this side, which means no matter what you think the probabilities are, you've got infinity on the other side of the equation. And it takes infinity on the first side of the equation to offset it. And if it's not there, it doesn't matter how low the risk is. He ended up believing this so much that he quit doing math, which is kind of sad, really. They actually found that he had a bunch of equations that he had written, like tucked into his coat, because they believed that the study of mathematics was actually against God at the time. I'm paraphrasing. There's a good Wikipedia article about it that you can read. But I thought about Pascal's wager when I was thinking about soul coins, which is like, well, what if it's an evil soul? And you're like, yeah, but it's finitely evil. The soul isn't evil forever, all the time, because it gets flushed through the river Styx. It goes into a devil. It's got this whole path that it follows. And you're destroying a soul forever. It doesn't matter whose soul it is. You destroyed it. Right? It doesn't matter. You destroyed the soul. So that to me is a huge deal. Now, I have one big qualifier for this, which is if you're good with it, go with the gods, right? If it's working great for your game, I am not telling anybody, hey, you need to rethink how you're handling soul coins in your game. If your players are on board and you're on board, go with the gods, right? This is not to solve that problem. This is not to add in a complication into games that are already running well. This is for guys like me, where I started to run it and I went, oh man, this isn't working. I had players who were like, we were ready to almost quit playing the game because it was like the theme was so far out of whack that my players are like, I don't know if I want to do this, right? And so I found a solution, and I think it was a solution that actually worked pretty well, which is, what if instead of soul coins, you use demon essence, right? That nobody cares about demons. Demons are beings that are spewed up from the goo at the bottom of the abyss. They have no souls. They're not a transition of a soul like a devil is. No one cares about demons, right? And so what if you could have something like the Ghostbusters ghost catcher for demons? And you have to go find a demon, and you have to throw out the ghost catcher. You have to kill the demon, and the demon's essence is sort of captured into this device and maybe even also injected into the equivalent of a soul coin, only now it's a demon coin. And the demon coins can be fed into your war machine, and the war machine loves eating up demon essence, and the demons don't like it, but the demons don't care because they get reformed back in the abyss anyway. And there's no soul to destroy, right? It's a totally different process when you're doing that. So I actually added that into my game. So I had a game a few weeks ago where I ran it, and we had all the trouble with soul coins, and it brought up a lot of questions I hadn't even thought of, right? And all this stuff I hadn't really thought of till my players started talking about it. And I was like, wow, that really is true, right? And it's like, all we want to do is play Mad Max Fury Road. We want to drive around in these war machines. But when you think about the fuel being 1 day or 1 to 3 days of fuel requires the destruction of an eternal soul, that equation doesn't work, right? So instead, I thought about it and I said, what if I did this instead? So I had one of Mad Maggie's engineers, one of her mechanics, go to one of the party members and say, hey, I've got a thing that can help you out. If you go kill demons, you can capture demon essence in this thing and put it into a coin, and handed him the stuff and said, you go out there and do it and, go on with you. And the guy's like, great. And then the guy pulled up his glasses and he had elven eyes. He looked like hell, right? He looked like one of Mad Maggie's, but he was actually an elf. And he goes, I used to be an elf once myself, and I remember back when I had a soul. And then he pulls his glasses back down, goes back to business. It's like, oh, wow, like a little bit of compassion in the middle of this hellish wasteland. And it was a good scene, and it worked, and my players were appreciative of it. And the cool thing is now you have side quests. Let's go hunt big demons, right? And they found one, this huge Gorostro that was out there like just destroying other warlord crews. And they found this Gorostro, and the Gorostro just charged in, and they had this huge fight, and they killed the Gorostro, and they threw out the thing, and they captured the Gorostro's soul, and they put it in, or not the soul, the essence of the Gorostro, and they stuck it on a coin, they threw it in their war machine, and boom, and they went roaring off into the rest of the adventure. So that worked really well. So I think that the way that soul coins works in Descent into Avernus is a really it's a model for what the theme of the adventure is, right? That the example of the theme of the adventure. Now, if you're running the adventure as a kind of the fall to darkness, right? The idea of the corruption of good, then maybe the way the souls works just fine for you. If, however, you're going more with the sacrifice and redemption theme, the theme that I'm going with when I'm running Descent into Avernus, there's an alternative for soul coins that isn't nearly as bad, and that's the idea of demon coins. So I hope this video is useful. If you like it, please subscribe to the channel. You can also support shows like this by going to patreon.com/slyflourish and joining my Patreon. Thank you very much, and have a great day, and get out there and play some D&D.